Alright, so we just had the Zenless Zone Zero version 2.2 live stream, and with that we finally got info on our new upcoming characters, Seed and Orphie. So today, I want to go over all of the kit info they gave us on the stream, and I want to give my overall thoughts on the two of them so far. And as all these live streams go, we don't get the full kit info with like multipliers and every single ability, but we do get enough to give a general gist of how the character is going to perform to, you know, have some thoughts on them from there. So now let's start out with Seed. Now, she's going to be an electric attack agent, and I know a lot of people were looking forward to her being more so of the mech, but she does have some, you know, uses of the mech in her kit here, which is cool, but I kind of understand why people wanted more from her when it comes to the mech there. But starting out with her core passive, Seed is actually going to work extremely well with having a second attack specialty character on the team. And that's because she's going to select the attack specialty ally with the highest attack stat to be her Vanguard in battle. And whenever this character that is the Vanguard uses their EX special, Seed is going to gain the Onslaught effect, which is going to increase her attack and crit damage. And the reverse is also true as well. Whenever Seed uses her EX special, the Vanguard is going to gain Direct Strike, which is the same kind of buff for attack and crit damage there. And if you're able to have both Onslaught and Direct Strike active at the same time, both Seed and the Vanguard are going to gain the Besiege effect, which is going to increase both of their damage. So being able to have these effects active is going to be super big for Seed and whatever attack DPS you run with her, because you're just going to get a ton more damage from this. Next up for her additional ability, to activate it, all you need to have is another attack character on the team, which if you're using Seed optimally to get her core passive, you're going to have this anyway, so this should pretty much always be active for you. With the additional ability here, anytime Seed and the Vanguard use energy, it's going to increase the steal charge of the mech, which is super important as we get to how the mech is going to work in a little bit here. Also, anytime Seed deals damage while she's on field, she's going to restore energy for the Vanguard, and she's going to also restore a steal charge for her mech. So this is going to be very good as well to increase that steal charge, because that is going to be a very important resource for the mech. And then also increasing the Vanguard's energy is going to allow them to get those EX specials off to activate the Onslaught effect to buff Seed. So she does work very well in these like duo DPS kind of setups for attack characters. So now let's talk about Steal Charge here. So Steal Charge is a resource that's unique to Seed, and the mech specifically will consume the Steal Charge to use as a strong attack. So without Steal Charge, you won't be able to use the mech's big attacks. So it is an important resource to have a good amount of, so that you can take advantage of the mech as much as possible. And one of these attacks here is going to be through her EX special. So with this, she's going to start piloting the mech, and the mech is going to enter a flight mode. During this mode, you're going to be able to fire several missiles, and then end off the attack with a giant punch. And this is pretty cool, honestly, because you do get to fly around with it, but you will get a solid amount of damage here from the mech, and really any of the mech attacks are going to be her most threatening moves. So it is very important to use the mech whenever you're able to, and to keep as much steal charge as you can to, you know, capitalize when you're able to deal a lot of damage. And then the last piece of her kit here is her ultimate, where she's going to recover a certain amount of steal charge, and she's going to go into the mech. It's kind of a cool like first person shooter kind of thing, where you're going to fire out a bunch of missiles and deal a lot of damage. So that's really everything we have there for Seed. So my first impression of her is that her kit is actually very interesting. I like that they're making a like dual DPS kind of thing for attack specialty characters now, because it's been a thing for Anomaly for a while. So now we have an ability to run a dual DPS setup with attack characters and have it actually make sense, because with Seed's core passive alone, you're getting a ton of buffs for the other DPS as well as Seed herself. And I think Seed's kit will generally work well with DPS characters that need either a little bit of field time or not too much field time, because you're going to want to keep Seed on field as much as possible to build up steal charge and be able to take advantage of the mech attacks. And really you just need your other DPS to weave in to make sure that Onslaught is active, so that not only can you get Onslaught, you can also get the Besiege effect by having both Onslaught and Direct Strike active for Seed and the Vanguard. Plus, Seed being on field as well will also allow you to generate energy for the Vanguard, so you can pretty much use that to get their energy up enough to get their EX special off, swap into them to use that to refresh Onslaught, and then swap right back out into Seed, which is going to be very good as well. So I think in terms of pull value, I think players who have either Soldier Zero Ambi or are also going to be pulling for Orphie, which we're going to talk about in a bit here, those are probably going to be the best options for Seed right now in terms of a sub DPS. And that's mainly because for Ambi, you want to use her EX special to get her maximum charges for her aftershocks on the enemy, instead of using the regular special to just get one at a time. So Seed can do a bunch of damage there while giving her energy. And then for Orphie, as we're going to talk about, Orphie does end up being a more off-field DPS. So she's also going to work very well since she doesn't need as much on-field time to deal a ton of damage. And when it comes to that third slot on the team, Trigger is going to be insanely good, but you can also sub in another support for this slot, like Astra Yao, Nicole, or whichever support is going to be the best option based on your team there. But Trigger and Astra Yao are likely going to be the best options there. And if you don't have attack specialty DPSs that don't need much on-field time, then Seed is not going to have as much value for you because you need another attack character to bring out her full potential. So that is important to keep in mind there as well. But now let's swap over to Orphie and Magus, who we are just going to abbreviate to Orphie. So Orphie is a fire attack agent, and I kind of realized she is pretty much like an attack specialty Bernice, but she has a lot more like off-field capabilities as well. So we're going to start out with her special attack and EX special, which do act relatively the same. They can both activate while she's off-field, and these attacks will activate whenever an on-field ally attacks an enemy. And the EX special, of course, will only activate once Orphie has enough energy. And by using both of these, she's going to gain Bottled Heat, which is a unique resource that she has. And when she has Bottled Heat and she has at least 80% of her gauge, at least it's what it looked like from the live stream footage. They didn't give an exact number there, but it looked like around 80% full. You can hold the EX special button while Orphie is on field to continuously fire the laser from Magus. As you're firing this laser, it's going to consume the Bottled Heat meter until either you let go of the button or until you run out of Bottled Heat. The damage is going to increase the longer you're using the laser for, and if an enemy attacks you as you're activating the laser, she's going to automatically parry them as well, which is really nice. Also, when consuming Bottled Heat, all allies are going to gain the zeroed in effect. This effect is going to give them an attack buff, which scales off of the initial energy regen from Orphie. And anytime an ally is zeroed in and they use an aftershock attack, the duration of the zeroed in state is going to be extended as well, which is really nice to keep that buff on them as much as possible, especially if you're running characters like Soldier Zero Ambi and Trigger, who can do a solid amount of aftershocks. This is going to be very good. Next up, for Orphie's additional ability, to activate it, you need either a stun or support specialty ally, which should be pretty easy to get considering she is a DPS style character. And with the additional ability here, whenever an ally with the zeroed in effect uses an aftershock attack, they're going to ignore a portion of the enemy's defense, which is super nice to make allies do even more damage, and especially work well with that Oval Squad core, which is pretty much like mostly an aftershock core at this point. And the last piece of the kit that they gave us is Orphie's ultimate. So the ultimate kind of works very similar to Bernice's, just not being an anomaly character, where Magus is going to fire a continual laser to sort of suppress enemies and keep them in place. And using this ultimate is going to trigger a quick assist. And if you do activate the quick assist to swap into another ally, you're going to extend the duration of the ultimate, meaning enemies are going to be locked in place for longer, getting hit by the laser. So that is pretty solid there to be able to benefit off the ultimate more and get some free damage off. So that is everything that we have for Orphie's kit right now. So in terms of my first impressions of her, I think she's going to be a pretty strong off-field DPS. I think that she is going to work very well, especially with the premium Oval Squad characters. I think pairing her with either Soldier Zero Anby and Seed, and a sort of, you know, dual DPS setup could be very good. And I think she'll end up being like a dual DPS kind of character in general, just because she is an off-field DPS. And especially pairing her with a character that can be on field a lot, like Seed, for example, will be very good, because Seed can take up a lot of the field time, while Orphie is going to be on the field maybe just a little bit. And then a character like Trigger, for example, or even Asher Yao, if you want to use a support instead, they can be on the field even less or not at all. So that'll help you to get the most amount of damage while still having as many buffs as possible. And it also is important to note that Orphie does have that extra synergy with any characters that have Aftershock attacks, meaning that if we get future Aftershock characters, Orphie is still going to be a very solid partner for them, because unlike Seed, who needs specifically attack specialty allies, Orphie does not have that restriction. So it is possible that Orphie could age better, assuming that they release more Aftershock heavy characters, but that'll be for the future, we'll have to see. But when it comes to supports besides Trigger and Asher Yao, if you have other supports that can fit on the team, great, because they'll work with Orphie's additional ability. But besides that, really, like any kind of support should be able to do the job, just based on whoever you have at the time. So that is pretty much everything for Orphie and Seed here. I definitely think they're going to be solid characters for people who mainly have like the premium Old Bull Squad characters back from 1.6, and we are getting a Trigger rerun as well, which is super good. But I'd love to see what you all think in the comments down below about Orphie and Seed here. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed and want to see more content from me, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But with that, everyone, I will see you all next time.